Okay, welcome back to Language Studies today. I'm sorry that I've been out lately. I've been kind of sick and I've been working a lot, so I haven't really had time to do a lot of videos. But today I thought that I would do a quick little video about word order in Russian. And this will be an intermediate lesson. And I had a request in one of the comments, so I thought I'd just go ahead and do a quick video on word order just to get an introduction. So what you should realize with Russian is that word order, it's flexible. And there could be a whole book written about word order in any language, so to do this in one video is actually pretty difficult. And so I'm just going to go over a few quick rules that I think is important for you to know, and that I think would help you in your studies as an intermediate language learner. Okay, so let's get started. So let's go over what you really need to know. And basically I would say that word order is like I said, really flexible. You can, because it has cases, word order plays less of an important role. And this is a really good thing if you want to put sentences together yourself. And it's a bad thing if you're trying to understand sentences sometimes and people speaking. So it's like a two-edged sword. On the one hand, it's easier for you to say what you want to say. So you can basically say or formulate a sentence the same way that you would in English and get away with it. And usually, I'm going to say usually, that's exactly how they would say it in Russian too, conversationally. So you would say, I ate a pizza. And in Russian, same thing. Я, which is I, ел, meaning ate, and pizza, pizzu. This would be perfectly fine and acceptable. But like I said, Russian is a very flexible language when it comes to word order. So you could actually say, Я пиццу ел. So you can say, just like this, Я пиццу ел. Now what's kind of interesting in Russian, sometimes if you really want to emphasize a word in a sentence, you can place it at the end of a sentence. So for example, if you want to really emphasize that you're the one that ate the pizza. So in this case, I'm going to say that I want to emphasize myself. I'm going to say that I ate the pizza. You can put that I at the end. So you would say it like this. Pizzu ел я. And so you're emphasizing this I ate the pizza. But basically, in normal everyday speech, when you're not trying to emphasize anything, you can just say it how you would normally say it in English, and I would say it would be totally fine. Of course, there are sometimes some really, I would say, conversationally strict rules. For example, if you would say, I need shoes, there are sometimes just these constructions that you always say one way. So, need is нужны in this case. Sometimes, not in this case, I just mean in this instance, it's нужны. Sometimes it could be нужно, or нужна, or нужен. I is actually being replaced here by the dative case, so it's мне. So I, or to me, is needed, right? And then туфли is shoes, usually like women's shoes. So if your wife or girlfriend ever says, I need shoes, and you want to translate it into the Russian, I would say, мне нужны туфли. Or if you have a Russian girlfriend and she just says, мне нужны туфли, then you know that you're going to spend some money soon. Okay, so let me point out a few things real quick. And the first thing I would like to point out is that you can't put prepositions and the nouns that go with those prepositions in any order that you want to. And this is like a really important point, because in English sometimes we separate the prepositions when they go with verbs especially. And so in Russian you just want to make sure that you never do this. So for example, if you want to say I have a cat, you would always have u, which is the preposition, and then the noun that goes with is меня. So this is like at me is, and then koshka is cat. Also you could add a есть in there, which just emphasizes it. So if someone asks you a question, do you have a cat? You would say, I do have a cat. You would say, у меня есть кошка. And because it's flexible, you can say есть кошка у меня, or you can say есть у меня кошка. You can be flexible with it. However, you cannot take this u and leave it by itself at the end somewhere. Or leave it by itself without the noun that goes with it. So this is totally wrong. You cannot say koszka jest mnie u. The mnie should always be after the preposition. So basically the noun that goes with the preposition should always be after the preposition. And so if you want to say, what are you looking at? And in English, the preposition is at, and for some reason we put at the end. And if you want to literally translate that, it's like, что ты смотришь на? But this is totally wrong, and this would make no sense to a Russian speaker. Not only is this wrong grammatically, but this na can sometimes be offensive. And because this is more or less a family channel, I'm not going to tell you why this is offensive, or I'm not going to teach you how to use it offensively. So the correct way would say it is, at what are you looking? So you have the na, which is at, что is what, ty is you, and смотришь is are looking. And I'm assuming that the people that are watching this video are intermediate speakers, and they already have some familiarity with verbs and tenses in Russian. I, of course, will do some more lessons on verbs and tenses, but if you don't know much about it, just know that this means at what, and then you looking. So it's at what are you looking. Now, some other things that I would just like to say is that whatever is the subject of the sentence usually comes first. And what's written here is usually the nominative. But sometimes other cases kind of take place of the subject of the sentence, and most often that would be the dative case. But whatever is acting as a subject usually comes first. And of course, the verb is usually second. Then comes the indirect object. And then comes the direct object. And of course, the indirect object is usually in the dative case, and the direct object is usually in the accusative case. And it's just like English. We have I as the subject, comes first, verb is second, and then him is the indirect object, and the ball is the direct object. And in Russian, exactly the same. Я дал ему мяч. So it's I gave him the ball. So for simple sentences like that, you can just memorize this formula and you'll be good to go. And then whatever comes after, whether it's the instrumental case, prepositions, or whatever, usually they'll come after all of that. And again, this is just a rule of thumb. Where you put the prepositions, where you put the instrumental case sometimes affects the meaning of a sentence to some degree. And it's just like English, in that where you place some things depends on what the sentence means. But that's more for an advanced lesson. Okay, and just one more thing is that a lot of times, and I'm not saying this is rarely the case, this is a lot of times, that if the direct object or the indirect object is a person, so it's either the direct object or indirect object, so remember this, it can be placed before the verb. This is very conversational. So you say something like, I love you. What you're doing is you're taking this you and you're placing it before the love. So it's я тебя люблю. It's literally I, you love. But it means I love you. But it's perfectly fine to say я люблю тебя. There's no problem with that. If you want to make a Russian girl feel special, you can say я люблю тебя. If you want to make it sound like a Russian, you can say я тебя люблю. And then she'll be impressed. Alright, so that's all I've got for today. It was real quick. Like I said, you can write a whole book just on syntax and word order. And so I might have some more advanced lessons coming along where we actually break down complex sentences and look at how the sentences would, what the sentence would mean if the words were placed here or somewhere else, and what kind of variations on the meaning it might have. But for all you intermediate learners out there, I hope this was a good lesson. If you have any comments, please leave them. If you have any questions, please ask in the comments. And hopefully I'll be getting out some more videos soon. So from all of us here at Language Studies, love life and study hard.